it's really just managing the client and their experience, because I do this every day for a living. So there isn't too many things that can happen at this point that's going to cause me to be frantic or have a meltdown or be stressed out. But for them, they only do this once every so often. So the smallest thing will set them off.
Would you mind taking us through because you touched on it a little bit before, do you mind taking us to the typical process of how you go deal with clients and meetings and presentations and all that?
Sure. So usually what happens is we'll do a rough design consultation, our first essential meeting. I try and keep them between 30 minutes and 45 minutes, but I am a talker. So usually they wind up being an hour and a half. But I kind of feel like that's a good indicator for me. I can get all the information that I need. I ask a lot of questions. I kind of try and find out, who's living there, how they're living there, what they feel comfortable with, what their day is like, how they function in their home, how much time they spend in their home. So, I'm usually there for about an hour and a half based upon what the scope of what we're looking to do is, whether it's a full remodel, we're gutting the entire place, or maybe we're just doing new furniture or a refresh. Depending on what the scope of the project is, I usually will come up with a plan from there that I share with my client. So maybe it is, we have to do different phases, and we have to go get, we have to pull permits, and we have to get a demo permit. We have to get HOA approval, and, we have to source everything. So if that's the case, then we do everything by phases. And I kind of create an outline for them. I create initial concept boards that just kind of show the overall look that we've discussed and the direction that we're going in. And I try and make sure that they're comfortable with that, so that there's no surprises. If it's really just a refresh, maybe we're just buying furniture and putting some paint on the wall, I'll just go straight to a concept board and kind of, again, show them what we've discussed. This is kind of the style and the look that we're going to go with. And I present it to them. Then it's just a matter of, what the next steps are. Is it purchasing, like sourcing everything, getting the approvals for everything, getting everything purchased, getting it installed. Right now, I have a client we're dealing with returns because he signed off on everything, but he's decided that he doesn't like it. Oh. So, I make sure to go over returns with them in my contract, where it says we can do returns if the vendor allows it, but there is a restocking fee. There is charges to get it back to the vendor. If you're okay with all that, we'll make it happen. And then, it really just depends. I try and check in with them as much as humanly possible. I like to do at least a touch point once a week, just so that we stay really organized and we know kind of what's on our punch list, right? So if we're in the process of ordering furniture, these are the things that have been ordered. These are the dates they're going to be installed. This is your timeline. Or if it's, these are the vendors that are coming on these dates. This is when the wood, like if the floor is going to get refinished, this is when the floor is going to get refinished. This is when it's going to get sealed. This is when the wall covering guy is coming. This is when the carpet guy is coming. So I try and organize all that for them, just so that we're always on the same page. And again, there's no surprises. It's really stressful when we're doing a refresh or a gut job and they're still occupying the home.
Oh, yeah.
It's really, really challenging. And sometimes it's just as challenging when they're not in the area as well. So I have a client, she lives in Chicago. We're redoing their oceanfront property in San Clemente, and they had to get all the sewers, all the piping redone in their one-story home. And literally all the floors, it was a concrete slab. They drilled through all the floors. I wish I could show you pictures. They drilled through all the floors, took out all the pipe, and there were just mounds, like piles of dirt everywhere. You could not get around that first floor until that was done. And she was very nervous because I kept sending her pictures. And she was like, this is going to look okay when it's done. But, this is it. Trust me, we'll get the floors back. We'll get everything put back. So a lot of them, they really just rely on the schedules that I put together and my expertise on, if there's a problem, we can't freak out about it. Problems arise all the time. We have to just kind of come up with a solution and move forward. If, they hate something, that happens too. We got to just come up with a solution and move forward. So a lot of times it's really just managing the client and their experience, because I do this every day for a living. So there isn't too many things that can happen at this point that's going to cause me to be frantic or have a meltdown or be stressed out. But for them, they only do this once every so often. So the smallest thing will set them off. And, like, for example, if the carpet is coming from Georgia and it's been delayed by 10 days and now we have a holiday coming up, but the installer has been scheduled and we've already paid the installer the deposit, they get really concerned with how all that's going to be affected. And simply all we can do is just reschedule the installer. Once we have the carpet in our possession, then we can get it installed. So just kind of working with them and explaining what the solution is and how we're going to move forward. I think that's really the biggest part of my process, is just constant communication with all of my clients and telling them, where we are with the process, the good, the bad, the ugly. And then hopefully, at the end we can be friends. That's kind of always what I like, is, when I can stay in contact with them and they give me updates and they're like, oh, that wall covering you put up like 2 years ago, it still looks amazing. And that makes me happy, because it makes me feel like, we had more of a real connection instead of just a professional one. And, they consider me a part of their life. So that makes me happy.
Is that the most rewarding part of your job then? Making those real connections with the people you're designing for?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I really think that's the main crux of the design world. I think there's a misnomer, and a lot of designers get burned out, because when you're going through art school, you have this freedom to design whatever you want. There's no budgets. You just get to design, and really you're kind of honing your craft and your skill on how to put things together. But when you get out in the real world and into business, that's not the case. You're limited by people's budgets. You're limited by their expectations. A lot of people don't understand that, they can't have a brand new kitchen for $10,000. That's not realistic. Or they don't understand that we can't do this full home remodel in 3 months. You're not moving at the end of summer. Like, that's not realistic. And so they're not always happy to hear those things. And so I think you really have to take the role of one leader of their project, right? They need to follow you, because you're the one who knows the ins and outs of these different types of projects. But two, they have to feel really comfortable with you. They have to give you their trust in order for you to essentially move forward in a way that's going to be satisfactory to them. They're giving you large sums of money. And if they don't trust you, the entire process is going to be a push-pull thing, where they're constantly questioning you, constantly concerned, constantly trying to handle elements of the process. Maybe they're shopping behind your back. They're trying to buy a sofa, and you're like, but we already bought a sofa and it costs this. But they're constantly price comparing because they're not sure if you're giving them the best price. So it's really important in the beginning to establish that trust factor and that relationship, because if you don't have that, the entire process is going to be really painful. So those connections are important.